Hey guys, welcome to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. I'm Devon.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the show where we talk about all things Taylor Swift.
Yep. Taylor Swift. 24/7.
7. Wow, there's a track called 7. What a show.
Oh my gosh. When do the similarities end?
It's
After
all
this episode.
connected.
It always was. Gosh, I love that meme. All right. Well, now that we've sufficiently dated this episode, what's going on with you?
Not too much, but lately you and I have finally listened to the albums that we've recommended each other because Joe has not stopped shutting up about this group Lieu.
I don't like where this is going to go, specifically because I feel like you didn't like my recommendation as much as I liked yours. So I'm not that happy about it.
So, it was called Single?
The EP or Small as like an 7-song album is called Single, yeah.
It is Single. I was right. Okay. So I listened to Single by Lieu, and Joe listened to How I'm Feeling Now by Charli XCX, which was her wonderful quarantine masterpiece that she released. And I'm still trying to get him to listen to Charli, which is her self-titled that she released in 2019. But we'll get to that later. But anyways, what was your first impression of the album?
I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I did skip seeing Charli open for Taylor on the Reputation tour, which I'm mildly upset about now. Mm-hmm. Not to say I probably wasn't in the mood to like her then, so it probably wouldn't have hit as much as it should have.
Yeah. I
really like Claws. I think was the standout song on the album. You kept telling me the entire time that I wasn't gonna like, what was it, C 2.0 or something?
Yeah.
And I thought it was fine. I really liked it. I have like this weird penchant for pop that is very synth and has very high pitched vocals. Marshmello being one that produces a lot of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Odessa does a lot of it too.
If I had known that, I would have said you liked it. But typically when people don't listen to Charli XCX, that song is very, very glitch
I don't like
pop.
the glitchy. I don't like the glitchy aspects of it. That's my least favorite part of her kind of music. But like one of my favorite songs of all time in that kind of genre is Sunset Lover by Petty Biscuit. Mm-hmm. Petite Biscuit.
Petite Biscuit.
Is it Petite Biscuit? Why do I think it's Petty Biscuit?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that song is an absolute masterpiece of that genre. And if anyone has any recommendations for other songs like that, please let me know. It's a genre I cannot find enough of. There's two very specific genres I enjoy. Is that and sad British songs where it's just a British guy and either a guitar or a piano, and he just sings about breakups.
Louis
Capaldi, someone you know. Dean Lewis, Be All Right. There's another one, but
any Ed Sheeran song?
Not really, no, because Ed has too much production in his. Like they're not the same. Like it's also like it's sung in a bathroom because it's so echoey.
Gotcha.
There's something specific about that. It's so down to the wire. Anyway, tell me how much you didn't like Lieu.
It's not that I didn't like it. We just have two different tastes in pop, which we're gonna have a whole like bonus episode kind of thing where we talk about our favorite pop artists besides Taylor Swift, and some things we can agree upon. But like you just said, you hate glitch pop. Like I love glitch pop. I love this 80s disco resurgence that we have going on. You would absolutely hate 100 Gex, and I love them.
I love their one song with Fall Out Boy, but I mostly love it because Fall Out Boy's on it. And exactly. Oh my god, that song though was Hand Crushed by a Mallet with Fall Out Boy and like a bunch of other people I've never heard of.
Have you listened to the original though?
Yeah, it was trash. It was absolute garbage. The Fall Out Boy makes that intro. It immediately grabs you and you're like, okay. And the trills and runs that Patrick Stump does, amazing. And then my friend is a huge fan of this song and loves 100 Gex. And when I told him about it, we talked about it at length, and we were like, it's so weird because that song starts off on such a high note. Like it's like it comes out of the gate swinging. It's amazing. And then slowly but surely over time, the song just gets so bad that you have to turn it off.
Oh my gosh.
That's
There's some
exactly
songs,
how that song goes.
Like I think the original Click off of Charlie's album Charlie rather than C 2.0, which is just it's the remake of that song, basically part two. But the end of that song just explodes into this chaos because you have Dylan Brady of 100 Gex who produced it, and he's known for this like glitch type just chaos. Like sounds like you're blending technology like phones in a blender. It's wonderful.
That's like the end of Hand Crusher Mountain, where she's like, gow, 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 gow. Like it's just so like it starts off so reserved and has like great lyrics, great like vocals and everything like that, and it just starts screaming. It's just so annoying. I hate
it.
the ending of it. But
anyway,
it's a great song. So Loot.
It's a little too basic pop for me. Like
it's
a little
very vanilla
very
basic pop.
Radio friendly pop.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a combination, what did I say? Of Stay by Zed and then Oh, it sounded like Mr. Wives at some point too. Like
I don't know who that is.
The female vocalist, she kind of like draws a little bit of inspiration. It sounds like a combination of those two things. And I didn't get that much variety throughout the album, but it was good. It was like a very like I could have it on in the background of a restaurant and be happy.
They definitely changed their sound a lot, and like that was one of their first records that they put out because it had all of their very pop, like High Without Your Love, Other Side of the Your Side of the Bed, stuff like that. Those were very like their songs that made it to the radio. And then they did songs with they actually co-wrote No Promises with Cheat Codes. They're giving a writing credit on that. They have a song called Better That Without You or something with Better When You're Gone with David Guetta. And then they have another record called Lost, which is a lowercase record, all lowercase, which is not my cup of tea, but it's a lot more subdued and a lot not like folklore. It's still poppy, but it's nowhere near as like radio pop as whatever is. I think you would like that a little bit more now, knowing what you kind of gravitate towards. She's All Yours is the song I would recommend off of that album that I really like, but Tomorrow Tonight is the one I think that blew up that people really like. I think you would like that a little bit more, but they're also one of those bands. They don't really put out albums. We have a new song here. And I'm actually waiting today. My Loot beanie comes in, and I'm just checking the tracking order because I might pause this episode if it gets delivered and go grab it and put it on.
Oh my god!
Because it's so extra. I love it. And this is gonna be a long episode, so we got time.
Exactly. And I mean, like you just said, Cheat Codes, David Guetta, like again, not bad, just not my cup of tea.
I love generic pop. I really love generic pop.
But a lot of good pop coming out these days. I don't want to get too much into it because, again, I can go on forever. And we have
a lot of stuff to get to today.
Yes.
And I don't have to talk through a majority of it.
Yeah, so today we will be discussing and pointing out all of the lyrics in Folklore that reference other songs off the same album. So we're going to do a whole separate episode about all of the Easter eggs and lyrics that reference her older albums. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. That's going to be a long episode, even if not a 2-part episode.
I opened the document that Devon started recording all of this stuff, and I immediately closed it, took a nap, watched a couple of movies, watched a few seasons of stuff on Netflix, never looked at anything related to this podcast for a week. I was just so intimidated, and that kind of did the same thing with this episode, which is why I will be quiet for a majority of it.
It's a very research-based thing, and you have to, as someone who I like to pride myself on knowing a lot of lyrics, it's a very lyric-based task because you have to, if you have it all in your brain, you're like, wait, so okay, this relates to this with discography. At least with this episode, we're going to be talking about inner albums, so it's a smaller piece of work that references back to each other, which is a little easier to digest than 7 other albums of hers that we're going to be going back to. But that'll come out later. We got some time. And then we're going to be touching on the Teenage Love Triangle today, Cardigan, August Betty, just because of the nature of lyrics and analyzing the relationships between them. But we will also have a separate episode diving even deeper into that in the future.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yes. All right. Are you ready, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about this. We were going to do a separate episode about this topic, but we figured it would work out really well here. There was a lot of motifs that, and themes that traveled through the album. So the first one we're going to talk about is the film motif. So there's a couple lyrics that reference films and movies, etc. So we have 4 songs in this motif. We have I hit the Sunday matinee, the greatest films of all time were never made, which is in the 1. The next line, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending, from Exile. You're a flashback in a film reel on the one street in my town, from This Is Me Trying. And then the last one, the hero died, so what's the movie for? Hoax. And so I think the cool thing about the film motif is films are a method of storytelling. So the album Folklore being, stories passed down, word of mouth, person to person, could also be through movies and media and film. So I think that it's a cool idea that she brings in using film throughout the album.
One thing that's interesting that I just noticed looking over this is I do also like that she opens with it and she closes with it, because the one she starts with this film motif. It's been a long day. She starts with it with the one, and she ends it with hoax. And I think one thing that's not on here, but you mentioned a lot when we were going through lyrics and your favorite songs, is Epiphany itself should be somewhere on this motif, because I haven't seen 1917, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. And if that album or that song, it feels like it belongs on that, where you're just watching like a pan of a battlefield.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It feels like you're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Good point. So that is the first motif we see. The second one that Joe and I kind of mentioned, I think when we first did our initial reaction to the album, is you have this big theme of just, death and goriness and all of these, I guess, gory things that you wouldn't really talk about. So the first thing is the blood motif. So we have, and if you never bleed, you're never going to grow, from the 1. We have Marked Me Like a Bloodstain, and then later in the song, But Now I'm Bleeding, from Cardigan. We have Like You Get Your Knuckles Bloody for Me, from Exile. Then And You Can Aim for My Heart, Go for Blood, from My Tears Ricochet. Next line, Sir, I Think He's Bleeding Out, from Epiphany. And then finally, Bad Was the Blood of the Song in the Cab, from Invisible String, which that's referencing her song, but just that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs that reference blood, bleeding, etc.
Yeah, and I actually went through on my own. Like one of the first tasks I did when I was peeling back the lyrics of this was looking at both blood, references to like death, heaven, hell, demons, devils, and then just injury, and like how in depth she describes injury and describes scars and wounds and things like that. And it's just a lot. It's clearly more graphic in this album than it's ever been in any of her other songs or other albums. Leading to what, like I said, when we first started talking about this, is this album feels, if Speak Now was a Disney princess era, this album is the Grimm's fairy tales of Taylor Swift's discography.
Mm-hmm. It's a much darker theme to it. And then the last motif I'll get into before we do the rest of the album is this fire ash motif. We have 4 songs, basically. The first one being from My Tears Ricochet, If I'm on Fire, You'll Be Made of Ashes Too. Then we have Now I Breathe Flames Each Time I Talk, from Mad Woman. I'm a Fire and I'll Keep Your Brittle Heart Warm, from Peace. And then finally, I Am Ash from Your Fire, from Hoax.
I think that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Burning.
It's interesting because you have, ash comes from fire and one cannot exist without the other. Or I guess fire can exist without ash, but fire always turns to ash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting relationship between the two.
No, I love that.
Yeah, but so those are the main motifs that I've seen, besides, like we talked about death and injury and X, Y, and Z. Before we get into this, I am going to explain how I'll be conducting this. Basically, what I did was we went song by song, and we would pick out a line and then the next line from another song on the album that relates to it. And to keep this episode, non-repetitive and concise, what I did was if I've referenced a lyric before and the connection, I'm not going to touch it again. So let's say I have a reference to, if we're starting off with the one and it references a line from Cardigan, I'm not going to say that same line in Cardigan because we've already explained it. So just to kind of keep everything concise, and then everything from the motifs I will not be bringing up. However, what we'll be doing after each song is I'm going to talk about how many total references to other songs there are, and then how many other songs in general are referenced. So if there's like 16 references total, and it references back to 8 different songs off the album.
This sounds like something I would do, Devon.
It does sound like something you would do. So how did I end up doing? All right. So I love lyrics. I'm a big lyrics person. So we shall begin with the one. So the first line that we're going to talk about is, if you would have been the one. And then you think about this lyric from Cardigan, chase 2 girls, lose the one. So it automatically references back to losing the one, which is the title track. Not title track, but you know what I mean. The next line, I thought I saw you at the bus stop, I didn't though, also relates back to Cardigan with chasing shadows in the grocery line. I thought I saw you at the bus stop, I'm chasing these shadows, that parallel. Next line, roaring 20s, tossing pennies in the pool. There was this, motif that Taylor Swift has throughout her entire discography, but in the album itself, the number 20 is used a lot. So you can see that in Cardigan, Once in 20 Lifetimes, and an Epiphany with the line, only 20 minutes to sleep. And then the next line, rose flowing with your chosen family, relates back to the song Peace, family that I chose now that I see your brother as my brother. Next line, in my defense, I have none, relates to Exile, you're not my homeland anymore, so what am I defending? And then this is me trying, I have a lot of regrets about that. It's her saying, in my defense, I have none. I have regrets about it. Defending, you're not my home anymore. It's just an interesting little tie together. And then the last one from the one is, for digging up the grave another time. I think that can draw some parallels to, if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake? These themes of death, being dead, graves, my tears ricochet.
There's another lyric in My Tears Ricochet that reminds me of graves, but it's like, bury me or something.
Come on, you were the same jewels that I gave you as you bury me.
Yep, there it is. I was gonna say, I can float out a word. I know I'm gonna get the lyric from Devon.
And that'll be exactly. So that is the one. So we have 16 total references to other songs. Out of 8 songs. So out of the 17 songs on the deluxe edition, that is 8 out of 17. So,
yeah, that's the one thing that's weird about doing this, is we still haven't actually heard the lakes yet, but we are going to reference the lakes.
We have the lyrics to the lakes, so that is what we're referencing, but in terms of sonically hearing it in the audio, we have not heard it. So we have the most amount of references on the song is 4 references to the song Cardigan. And then we have 2 references to Epiphany, 2 to My Tears Ricochet, 3 to Exile, 1 to Invisible String, 2 to This Is Me Trying, 1 to Peace, and 1 to Hoax. So I think that having the one relate to Cardigan is pretty interesting when you think about the idea of Betty being the one for James, which we see in this love triangle later.
Oh, that's a good point.
Interesting little tie-in. Oh, wait, there's a much more interesting point later on in this episode. All right. The next song, Cardigan. All right. First line, high heels on cobblestone. This is a direct relation to I was walking home on broken cobblestones from Betty. Like I said, Cardigan is one of the triangles, so we're probably going to see a lot of these references. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. I think that relates directly to I'm only 17, I don't know anything, from Betty. Yes.
I'm going to raise my hand to interject here. Isn't Mirrorball also have high heels referenced to it too?
Oh, yeah.
Your favorite song where all you do is sing Spinning in My Highest Heels?
True.
I can't believe I missed that one.
I don't know. Yeah, so we did this relatively quickly, and by relatively quickly, I mean I spent a week on this.
And I looked it over for an hour.
But yeah, so I mean, Add that to the count. Next line. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. Like I said, I actually said that already. Okay, wait. Cut
Dancing
that
in
part
your
out too.
Levi's.
Okay. The next line is dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight. That relates back to stop at a streetlight. You know, I missed you from Betty. The line in the chorus, when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite. The end of Betty, standing in your cardigan. I think that's a direct correlation to the song.
Most common, makes sense.
Exactly. The song Chase Two Girls, Lose the One. I think that while it doesn't directly relate to a lyric, the concept of chasing two girls is mentioned in the song August, with her being the other girl. Next line, to kiss in cars and downtown bars. Again with Betty, kissing in the car again. The next line, tried to change the ending, can relate to Exile when he says, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending.
Oh, I didn't know that one before. That's awesome.
The next one, also relating back to Betty, you'd be standing in my front porch light, directly relates to Betty, I'm here on your doorstep. Next line, I knew you'd haunt all of my what ifs. Haunting is another kind of motif. You know I didn't want to have to haunt you, from My Tears Ricochet. And then from Seven, I think your house is haunted. This one might be a little bit of a stretch, but your heartbeat on the High Line. The High Line is somewhere in New York. So you think of the song Hoax, you know I left a part of me back in New York.
Have you ever been to the High Line?
I have not.
It's cool.
I don't travel. I
went to New York once, and it was going on the High Line was really cool. Definitely something. I didn't see it as like neat, I think, as everyone makes it out to be. But
gotcha. And then the last one I'm going to mention from Cardigan is you drew stars around my scars, relates again to Hoax. You know it still hurts underneath my scars. So on Cardigan, we have 21 total references to other songs on this album, for a total of 9 other songs. We have, I'm going to go in reverse order. We have 1 reference to Mirrorball, 1 reference to Invisible String, 1 to Seven, 1 to August, 2 to Hoax, 2 to My Tears Ricochet, 2 to Exile, 2 to Epiphany, 4 to The One, and 6 references to Betty. So when you think about the concept of Cardigan, she is, you know, referencing this lost love, or, you know, going back to this memory. So having it be relating directly to Betty and then The One is very interesting. Makes sense.
I think this is like leading credence to, and I don't think we ever mentioned this on the podcast, but we might be doing an episode about it, where there was a Reddit theory that was circulating the web of how every single song on this album is a full story. And I think that we're kind of leading credence to it here by showing like all of these connections between the songs, like The One and Betty connecting. Definitely, it makes it feel like the love triangle isn't just those 3 songs, and that the other songs on the record can contribute to the story as well, which I think is really cool.
100%.
The 100%.
Into the next song, The Last Great American Dynasty. We have the lyric, there goes the maddest woman this town has ever seen. I think that directly relates to, you know, the song Mad Woman. No one likes a mad woman. The next line, her salt box house on the coast took her mind off St. Louis. To the lyric, salt, air, and rust on your door, from August. Just the concept of salt. And then you actually mentioned this in the last episode when we talked about The Last Great American Dynasty, but the kind of theme of there goes the maddest woman, the most shameless woman, the loudest woman, that can tie into similar device that is used in Invisible String with time, curious time, mystical time, wondrous time. So that is all the references of that song. So it's
that's not a lot at all.
One of the fewer songs of this album. We have
from 21 to 3.
3 total references off of 3 total songs. So 1 from Mad Woman, 1 from August, 1 from Invisible String. Then we have Exile, and we have already actually mentioned all of the lyrics from Exile. So I will just tell you in between the defending lines and the blood themes and the film motifs. We have 12 total references to other lyrics off the album for a total of 8 total songs. So for Exile, we are referencing Hoax once, Invisible String once, Epiphany once, My Tears Ricochet once. Cardigan is mentioned twice, This Is Me Trying referenced twice, and The One is referenced 3 times, which is the most out of all of the songs.
One thing that I think is really interesting too about Exile is, if I'm looking at this correctly, there are only 3 lines from the song that we pulled, correct?
Yes.
So there are 3 lines from the song, and in those 3 lines, there are 12 total references in just 3 lines. That's insane.
It's those motifs. They pop out throughout the album.
That's so cool. I love that.
All right, the next song, which is also another heavy song, it actually, spoiler alert, it is the most referenced song throughout the entire album, which is My Tears Ricochet, track 5. So we have the only line that we haven't mentioned so far is, and you're tossing out blame, drunk on this pain, can relate to the line in Mirrorball, drunk as they watch my shattered edges glisten.
Those are the only 2 times she references drunk in this album?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
And so we have, again, the fire motif, the haunting motif, the blood motif, and then being dead to someone. So there are 13 total references and 11 total songs. So we have Hoax is mentioned once, Peace is mentioned, Mad Woman once, I said Peace is once, 7 is once, Exile is once, Epiphany is once, Invisible String is once, Mirrorball is once, The Lake is once, and then the only songs that are mentioned 2 times are Cardigan and The One. 13. You know, our girl loves 13. All right, and now we are on to Mirrorball. So the only song or the line that we didn't mention so far, only has 2 mentions, but and when I break, it's in a million pieces, can relate to a million little times from illicit affairs. So this song only has 2 references to 2 different songs, My Tears Ricochet and Illicit Affairs.
Little baby guy.
Little baby. Another similarly not referenced to a lot is 7. The song or the lyrics, and we can be pirates, relates to my cannons all firing at your yacht from Mad Woman.
That's such a weird one.
Similar theme to it. That goes for 3 total references, for 3 total songs, being 1 from My Tears Ricochet, 1 from Cardigan, and 1 from Mad Woman. Now, for another semi-long explanation, we are onto the song August. And August, again, being the second song off of the love triangle, this is going to have a lot of references in it. So we have Salt Air on the Rust on Your Door. The line about rust relates to I had the shiniest wheels, now they're rusting, to This Is Me Trying. We have And I Can See Us Twisted in Bed Sheets, can relate to Slept Next to Her, but I Dreamt of You All Summer Long from Betty. And then an interesting one is My Twisted Knife, My Sleepless Night. My Twisted Knife, My Sleepless Night from Hoax. Again, twisted knife, sleepless night, twisted in bed sheets. A knife is a weapon, can be used to, cause pain, inflict pain. Sleepless night, either staying up because, you're a part of an affair or you're doing some other stuff and you're sleepless. I think that's
Oops, sorry. I was just saying, like, my twisted knife, like James is twisting the knife into Betty by doing this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Ooh.
The next line, meet me behind the mall, can relate to illicit affairs. What started in beautiful rooms ends with meetings in parking lots. Meeting behind a mall. Malls have parking lots.
They do.
Who knew?
Famously.
The line, so much for summer love, can relate to the line in Betty, would you trust me if I told you it was just a summer thing? And then the last line, remember when I pulled up and said, get in the car, is a direct relation to when she pulled up like a figment of my worst intention. She said, James, get in, let's drive.
That Betty. Is as blatant as it gets.
Exactly. So we have 7 total references to 5 different songs, 1 from The Last Great American Dynasty, one from This Is Me Trying, one from Hoax, one from Illicit Affairs, and then 3 songs directly relating to Betty, which is about the guy that she had an affair with, or the girl, guy or girl. James, whoever you are.
Please stand up.
All right, another one that actually has a good amount of references is This Is Me Trying. The line, and it's hard to be at a party when you feel like an open wound,
Oof.
can relate to, if I showed up at your party, would you have me, would you want me, in the terms of parties, from Betty. And then relating to wound, the line in Epiphany, just a flesh wound. Next line, and my words shoot to kill when I'm mad, can relate to Mad Woman, they strike to kill and you know I will. And then again to shooting, my smoking gun, from Hoax. And then the last line we'll reference is could have followed my fears all the way down. It gives similar imagery to stood on the cliffside screaming, give me a reason, from Hoax. But yeah, so we have, what were we going to say?
I was gonna say, I just think it's like it's getting more and more interesting every time like we go through this and read it more. Where like if you just cut and paste lyrics from the context of the song they're already in to a completely different context, but still matched up to another lyric, it's just insane what you're able to do. Like I love the idea of like relating Taylor Swift's words as the smoking gun that she uses when she shoots to kill. Like it takes a different context on it because it's not even just a gun anymore. Her words become a gun, and that's what she uses to kill people. Like it's so, and it's already shot. Like the smoking gun is a gun that's already been shot, so she's already shot her words at people and used them to kill. It's so cool to pull these out of different contexts and just like puzzle pieces, work them into different ones.
Exactly. So this song has 11 total references to 7 total songs. So we have 1 from August, 2 from Exile, 2 from The One, 1 from Betty, 1 reference to Epiphany, 1 to Mad Woman, and then 3 total references to Hoax.
Ooh, that's a lot for Hoax.
Mm-hmm. Then we get to the next song, Illicit Affairs, which we can relate to a dwindling mercurial high, can reference a little bit to Mad Woman, which is, mercury used to be in different medicines and, cause madness in women. And then also mercurial has a different meaning as well. I know what mercurial means, everyone. It's not mercury, but it just draws an interesting parallel.
You don't say mercurial and not think of Mercury.
Exactly. And then the next line, you showed me colors you know I can't see with anyone else, can relate to if your Cascade Ocean Wave blues come. Oh. This is color blue. And then again, another blue is don't want no other shade of blue but you, from Hoax.
I like that we get back to a colors motif.
Mm-hmm.
I love when she sings in color.
It's a very big theme across her entire discography. But we have 5 total
Unfortunately,
references.
not as big as you would think, as someone who did a lot of research to yield nothing.
Sorry. We have 5 total references to 5 different songs, including 1 from Mad Woman, 1 from Mirrorball, 1 from Peace, 1 from Hoax, and only surprisingly 1 from August, which is also about an affair. You would think there'd be more.
Interesting.
But the general theme could tie over, but in terms of lyrical comparisons, there's not a lot.
That's fascinating.
Another little baby song, Invisible String. The line getting lunch down by the lakes obviously relates to the lyric, take me to the lakes, from the lakes. What is your shocked face?
No, it's just sarcasm. That's just straight up sarcasm.
I thought you were actually reacting to something. Joe just his face just dropped. And then the line, Joe actually picked this one out. Teal was the color of your shirt when you were 16 at the yogurt shop. He's like, well, they're 16. And then the song Betty, it's I'm only 17. It's just 1 year ago.
I think that's interesting because Invisible String is not part of the love triangle, but it doesn't have to be. But I like the idea of he met Betty when he was 16,
mm-hmm.
and he worked at a yogurt shop, and then he became a filthy, dirty cheater.
James.
So
this James song, things. 3 different references to 3 different songs. 1 from The Lakes, 1 from Betty, 1 from Last Great American Dynasty.
This is our first from The Lakes, right?
Yep, first from The Lakes. Then we get to Mad Woman. Everything is pretty much referenced already. We've talked about it. You get to the line, women like hunting witches too. is our second reference to the lakes, which these hunters with cell phones.
Gosh, I wonder how she sings that.
You could probably find it somewhere. But we'll wait till the album comes out.
I'm going to wait until I listen to it on vinyl.
So the song reference count for this, we have 8 total references to 7 different songs. 1 from This Is Me Trying, 1 to Last Great American Dynasty, 1 to Seven, 1 to My Tears Ricochet, 1 to Peace, 1 to The Lakes, and 2 to Hoax.
Hoax building it up?
Yes. Also, another surprising one, I guess just because of the motifs, is Epiphany. We have the line, only 20 minutes to sleep. Again, besides the whole 20 motif, we have My Sleepless Night from Hoax. And then just the general theme of war and Epiphany can relate to Sit With You in the Trenches, which is referenced in Peace. So we have 10 total references to 8 different songs. 1 reference to My Tears Ricochet, 1 reference to Exile, 1 to Invisible String, 1 to Hoax, 1 to Peace, 1 to This Is Me Trying, 2 to Cardigan, and 2 to The One.
But that's so nuts. 10 total references, 8 total songs. But again, it's just 4 lines that we pulled out from this song. That just like, it just shows like how much depth she can get out of one line, which is insane to me.
Well, now we have, funny you say that, 11 lines in this song that I picked out from Betty. So we have 11 different lines we picked out. There are 12 total references to only 5 different songs.
Oh, wow.
So this is a general, like, where we're going to find out. So this is what blew my mind. Okay, I hope you're ready for this. 1 reference to the song Hoax. 1 reference to This Is Me Trying. 1 to Invisible String. 3 references to the song August. And 6 references to Cardigan, which goes to show you he only mentions whoever the girl he cheated on with half of the time because Betty always mattered to him more. He mentions Betty double the amount of times in this song.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Isn't it?
I like that a lot. How many times did Betty reference Betty? Or how many Jesus. How
Did
many
Cardigan
times did
reference
Cardigan
Betty?
reference Betty?
That was referenced, let's see.
6 times. Obviously, I guess you can just inverse it. Yeah, it's the same.
Exactly.
Wow. And then Betty references August only once. Wow, that's really cool.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you're the girl in the relationship, you shouldn't really focus on the other girl that the man cheated on with or whoever cheated on with.
Tell that to the mistress because she referenced. I guess she referenced James 3 times, and she never references Cardigan, which works.
She might not know who the girl is.
She doesn't know who that is. She just knows that he's not hers to lose.
Exactly. Oof. All right. Then we get to Peace. We've referenced every lyric already, so I'll just get into the total reference count. We have 7 total references to 6 songs. We have 1 from My Tears Ricochet, 1 from Mad Woman, 1 from Epiphany, 1 from The One, 1 from Illicit Affairs, and 2 relating to Hoax. And then we actually get to the song Hoax. The only lyric we haven't talked about so far is This Has Frozen My Ground can relate directly to A Red Rose Grew Up from Ice Frozen Ground, which is a lyric from The Lakes. So in this song, we have 13 total references to 9 different songs. We have 1 from August, 1 from Epiphany, 1 from The Lakes, 1 from Illicit Affairs, and then 2 from This Is Me Trying, Peace, and Mad Woman, and Cardigan. Yes. And then we get to The Lakes. Again, we covered all these references already, but 5 total references to 5 different songs. 1 from My Tears Ricochet, The One, Mad Woman, Invisible String, and Hoax. So that is total. And now for the other data part of this episode is total references across the album as a whole. So I did total references in terms of lyrics and then how many different songs were referenced. And let me just make sure. Yes, okay. So I don't have this in any order. I'm just going to do it in track listing. But The One was referenced 15 times across the album, across 7 different songs. Cardigan was referenced 19 times off the entire album, which is the most on the album, over 6 different songs, which shows that Cardigan was an important song off this album, which makes sense if she released it as a single. Mm-hmm. Last Great American Dynasty was referenced 3 times over 3 different songs. Exile was referenced 8 times over 5 different songs. My Tears Ricochet was referenced 11 times off of 8 songs. Mirrorball only 3 times off of 3 songs. Seven, same thing, 3 times off of 3 songs. August was referenced 7 times off of 6 songs. This Is Me Trying 10 times off of 8 songs. Illicit Affairs 4 times, 4 different songs. Invisible String 8 times, 8 different songs. Mad Woman 9 times out of 8 songs. Epiphany 9 times out of 7 songs. Betty was referenced 11 times out of 4 songs, which might be the craziest ratio.
That is insane.
Peace was referenced 7 times off of 6 songs. Hoax was referenced 17 times out of the most tracks on this album, 12 different songs.
Wow.
And Hoax was 4 times off of 4 songs. So I think that really goes to show you that Hoax, being the traditional closer off of the standard album, not including the deluxe edition with the lakes, it shows that if it was referenced across 12
75% of the time, 75% of the songs.
And it just perfectly encapsulates the album and closes together all these different themes we were discussing.
That really refutes when we first listened to it, where you were like, I just don't think this song closes out. I don't think this is a good ending for it. And I could, not to say that I was right because I knew this, I didn't. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting. Like, yeah, we start off with 15 references to the one and 17 references to Hoax. Like, it's a good
intro and ending.
Yeah.
But that is all the data I
wonder if this works with other albums.
Maybe. We'll have to do this when we analyze the other albums, like towards the end after all the song breakdowns.
It might not. And just because she did specifically say in this album, she did not put any Easter eggs in the rollout. Obviously, it was a 16-hour rollout. She didn't do any like advertising with Easter eggs. So she put all of the Easter eggs in the songwriting. So that could be why this is such an anomaly and why we have so many inner album references.
And if that theory about everything being connected is true, with one storyline, it would make a lot of sense why there are so many inner album references.
This could be a book, and I would read that book.
Exactly.
I would read a napkin that Taylor Swift wrote on, but still.
Let me do some quick math. Hold on. So if you had to guess how many times total, how many references to other songs there are on this album across all 17 songs, what would your guess be?
Across all 17 songs, how many total? It's got to be over 100, right? It's got to be over 100. I'm going to just for Taylor's sake, I'll say 113.
It is referenced 148 different times.
Jeez.
Just off of what I found and we found alone in a week. So who knows what we missed?
Do you know what 8 plus 4 plus 1 is?
I didn't plan that. Oh my gosh.
I feel like that's subjective because clearly I'm sure we missed a couple that fans.
Let's say we didn't. Let's say we didn't. That's too good. Taylor, everything else wasn't intentional.
That's really funny. I can't believe that worked out the way that I thought
insane.
It would. Anyway, I have my Loot hat now. So we're going to close off the episode with Hard Eyes by Loot.
Well, do you have anything to say in general?
How do you sleep at night? I know the answer. You don't, because you were texting me until like 1 a.m. last night about this. It's nuts. I'm in love with the fact that she did this. It was a lot of fun to go through and try to pick out lyrics that like combined. And like I said in the beginning, like it's so cool to get different context to lyrics and like fit them like puzzle pieces. And like I'm actually really excited after this to just go over and read all of the stuff, because I contributed a little bit at the end where like I would just point out where Devon might have missed something or where I might have seen something that she didn't. And I'm sure hopefully you guys do the same to us. Let us know what you see that we didn't see. But I'm really excited to go through and just like piece these together. It's just so cool. Like the motifs that she brings in they're so different than what we've seen in other albums. There's so much more than just love that's tying things together. The death, the pain, the literal wounds and stuff that come from this album is just so fascinating. and to see it like all together in one document of just like how many times these things are referenced is insane.
It's crazy. My head really hurt after this. I was just like, Joe, I need to just sit for a bit. But yeah, that was all of the research.
I'm
That's all I
really
got.
proud of you, Devin. You this is the second episode I think you did like a majority of the research for and really compiled a lot of stuff. You knocked it out of the park.
Did I impress you with my data
You
analysis?
did. There's no Excel, which I'm a little upset about, but we'll get there.
Sorry.
I'm gonna make an Excel believer out of you soon. But no, this is awesome stuff. I'm blown away by both Taylor and what you've been able to do to compile all of this stuff.
Thank you, thank you. And I think that is all we have if you want to close us off.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on if you're not already subscribed. If you really like us, if you really want to support us, subscribe literally everywhere. Subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify. It really helps us out. Rate us 5 stars. Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts. It helps us boost our ratings and be seen by more people. So that really, I can't express how much that helps us with the algorithms that Apple runs. Do you want to talk about social media?
Yeah, so definitely follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of those at We Need to Calm Down Podcast. On Twitter, it's WNTCD Podcast. We are also on YouTube, so you can see our lovely faces and us just laughing at each other and our crazy matching outfits. We're both wearing stripes today.
And my
Joe's
loot hat.
But yeah, just follow us on there. Leave us a comment, DM us, let us know what you think.
Let us know if we missed anything.
We probably did, but for the
we
sake of
probably
13,
missed a
we
couple.
didn't.
But it does add up to 13 if we manipulate the numbers as much as possible. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Come back. We'll be here.